The Bogosity Podcast, early and ad-free. Become a subscriber at Patreon, Subscribestar, or Discord. Use the links at donate.bogosity.tv.
Welcome to the Bogosity Podcast for the week of May 11, 2025, the podcast that killed Hitler and then Bigfoot. This is your host, Shane Killian. Let's robotize the news of the bogus. Let's start with an update to the case of Corp versus Media Matters, and the judge is not happy with Media Matters. Just as a reminder, Media Matters successfully got a lot of advertisers to leave X by showing them fraudulent data suggesting that their ads were placed next to neo-Nazi and other extremist content, and taking other actions to smear X in the eyes of the public as a platform that caters to and is dominated by pro-Nazi and anti-Semitic content, driving away advertisers, users, and publishers. The case has been going on for over 500 days, and in all that time, Media Matters has been resisting discovery, earning the ire of the court more than once. They do not want anyone to know who is backing them. They even want to depose Elon Musk. Now, after all of that, they're trying to get venue changed from the Northern District of Texas to a more friendly venue in the Northern District of California. So U.S. District Judge Reed O'Connor let them have it in his recent order denying their change of venue. He ruled, for the first time since litigation commenced, and after 11 motions filed by defendants, numerous substantive and discovery orders by the court, one threat of seeking mandamus relief, and with a pending interlocutory appeal, defendants asked the court to transfer this case to the Northern District of California. This motion is untimely, improper, and comes at the expense of plaintiffs and the court's resources. Because of defendants' delayed request to transfer, despite their knowledge of the forum selection clause and the prejudice in transferring this case now, there is no legal approach that supports transferring this case. Is waiting over a year and a half, moving to dismiss a case on the merits twice, engaging in numerous discovery disputes, and appealing an unfavorable decision to the Fifth Circuit consistent with the intent to transfer this action to the Northern District of California? The answer must be no. Otherwise, litigants could abuse the judicial process by first filing a Rule 12b-3 motion to dismiss, then a motion for reconsideration, a motion for interlocutory appeal, and a motion for mandamus relief, all before invoking a forum selection clause. Considering the excessive delay and the extensive motions practice that has occurred in this action, defendants' actions have prejudiced plaintiffs. For the court to transfer this action at the current stage in litigation would further exacerbate plaintiffs' prejudice. Defendants did not soon after the denial of certification of an immediate appeal seek to transfer venue. Instead, they waited over 3 months. Second, though defendants assert that newly discovered evidence shows the Northern District of California to be the most convenient forum, the discovery period in this case is not closed, and a discovery issue is currently pending before the Fifth Circuit. Moreover, defendants cite no case law that would indicate they were required or even encouraged to wait for the court's order on interlocutory appeal before requesting transfer. Defendants' discovery evidence is insufficient to support their position that the Northern District of Texas is an improper venue. Therefore, the court reaffirms its previous holding that venue is proper in the Northern District of Texas. Because defendants have litigated this case for over a year without requesting transfer, defendants' motion to transfer venue is denied. The court also denies defendants' motion to dismiss. Defendants' motion reflects a pattern of gamesmanship, which the court previously warned defendants about. As plaintiff explains, Defendant's present motion may indicate that they waited to learn which way the wind was blowing before requesting transfer. Accordingly, plaintiff is ordered to file a brief explaining whether defendant's conduct should be sanctioned and, if so, detailing the court's authority to sanction defendant's conduct. Plaintiff shall file this brief no later than May 21, 2025, so ordered. Wow, lots of feels from Judge O'Connor, but it's tough to blame him. He and X have been jerked around ever since this began, and Media Matters have been consistently stonewalling discovery and acting in bad faith. If they're not careful, this case may be over before too much longer if the judge decides that their behavior is so egregious it warrants summary judgment for X. As it is, they've delayed things so much, trial isn't scheduled to begin until February of 2026. And it didn't help that within minutes of Judge O'Connor posting this order, Media Matters posted another motion whining that they shouldn't have to turn over discovery. Meanwhile, the advertisers have come crawling back to X, and the platform remains one of the most popular social media apps with some 620 million active users, despite the giant sucking sound of the far left leaving for Bluesky. And a lot of people are really wanting to see who is behind a lot of it, and if, as we've seen so many other places, CISA and the DHS under Joe Biden were very active if not in control. Because if they end up being state actors, that's something that we all need to be concerned about.
Sometimes you just have to stomp some skulls. From the mind of Mr. Dapperton, a game for the ages. In a world where a race of undead furries tries to take over the world's nuclear arsenal, one man must stop them. But which man? You choose. The Orange Overlord.
Ow, my ear!
Bernie Slanders. Debate Dominator.
My kippa's ruined!
Or Joe Sleepy.
Build me back.
And of course, Mr. Fancy Pants himself.
Forget those losers! You can get the Gold Edition and play as 4 more characters, including me, the Spooky Spaceman, along with Billionaire Brat, Professor Proof, and the easiest way to play, as Jesus himself.
7 complete different worlds with more coming all the time. Full controller support. You can even get eaten by a worm and pooped out into a furry cathedral.
And don't forget that Gold Edition, where you can play the ultimate challenge, Devil's Doorstep.
This gory satirical adventure pulls no punches. You know you want this game. Go to links.bogosity.tv/skullstompers and play Skull Stompers now.
So normally, judges have been against lawyers using AI to fabricate references. Here's one where the judge not only allowed it, but applauded it. A road rage incident ended up in Christopher Pelkey being shot dead by Gabrielle Horcasitas in 2021 in Chandler, Arizona. The evidence suggests that Pelkey was the aggressor and Horcasitas acted in self-defense, since Pelkey had gotten out of his truck and was moving towards Horcasitas' car. Nevertheless, Horcasitas was found guilty of manslaughter. At his sentencing, Judge Todd Lang, for some bewildering reason, allowed the family to play an AI reconstruction, or should I say hallucination, fabrication, of Pelkey giving a victim impact statement at his hearing. The AI said,
"To Gabriel Horcasitas, the man who shot me. It is a shame we encountered each other that day in those circumstances. In another life, we probably could have been friends. I believe in forgiveness and in God who forgives. I always have. And I still do."
It wasn't even a well-done AI. It was just an emotionless, droning voice with a lip sync to a photo of Pelkey where they couldn't even get his beard to move properly. Seriously, it's like one step up from those old Clutch Cargo cartoons. Nonetheless, a verklempt Judge Lang said,
"I love that AI. Thank you.
for that. I feel that that was genuine, that his obvious forgiveness of Mr. Horcasitas reflects the character I heard about today.
And the judge was so moved, he sentenced Horcasitas to 10.5 years, a full year more than the prosecutors were asking for. This is ridiculous! Totally absurd! This is a complete and utter fiction that was totally 100% made up, had no probative value, and only served to prejudice the judge against the defendant. All because the judge heard Pelkey say something he never actually said in a way he never actually said it. Lawtuber Ian Runkle posted on X, "If I am murdered, and they try to reconstruct me as an AI for a sentencing submission, I hope the AI says, this is not evidence and is without value. Everyone in this courtroom should be ashamed to participate in this. But seriously, do not do that." Lawyer Steve Leto said, "So let's suppose that he didn't die, that he survived the shooting. He could have come into court and testified at the sentencing and said, you know, this guy shot me, and here's what I want the court to do, or here's how it affected my life. Take that into account, Your Honor." Those kinds of things are extremely common. But victim impact statements, when you say, okay, we're now going to bring in a model generated by AI of a person who cannot give you a victim impact statement because they're gone, that's not actually what's supposed to be happening. And I understand that this may have been very realistic and may have been very moving for people, but the words were fed to it by somebody else who could have gotten up there and spoken on their own. This should never have been allowed in any courtroom for any reason. It's a completely insane farce, putting words into the mouth of a dead man who has no way to say if that was what he believed or not, and with no way for him to be in any way impeached. And the judge said, I feel it was genuine. There was nothing genuine about it. This needs to be appealed and quick. I don't even know why this is something to be considered. It's a complete fiction and absolute 100% fabrication. And even absent that, making an AI of your dead loved one is just messed up on the face of it. When someone dies, all anyone truly has left of them is their memories. And using this technology to mess up everyone's memories of someone, for good or for ill, is to destroy everything that person was. If you're on the Wi-Fi in a coffee shop or hotel, anyone on that network can get your traffic. Do you really trust all of those strangers? For that matter, do you really trust your ISP? A VPN can protect you from prying eyes, disguise your location, and even foil government censors. It's essential in this day and age, so go to vpn.bogosity.tv and you'll be taken to BoxPN. Starting at just $2.99 a month, you can get unlimited high-speed connections to VPN servers all over the world, and they don't log connections, so your privacy is assured. Traveling abroad, just VPN home, and don't worry about what those other governments are doing. Back at home, stop your ISP from traffic shaping and messing with the quality internet access you're paying good money for. You can connect from multiple machines at once, including your smartphone or tablet, and it supports all the secure standards, including OpenVPN and SSTP. Bypass censors and surveillance with your own secure VPN connection. Go to vpn.bogosity.tv. Oh, yet more lawfare. 17 states are now suing the Trump administration for signing an executive order pausing all permits for offshore wind energy. On his first day in office, Trump passed an executive order titled Temporary Withdrawal of All Areas on the Outer Continental Shelf from Offshore Wind Leasing and Review of the Federal Government's Leasing and Permitting Practices for Wind Projects. The order states, under the authority granted to me in Section 12A of the Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act, I hereby withdraw from disposition for wind energy leasing all areas within the offshore continental shelf, as defined in Section 2 of the Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act. He made the order because of, quote, the need to foster an energy economy capable of meeting the country's growing demands for reliable energy, the importance of marine life, impacts on ocean currents and wind patterns, effects on energy costs for Americans, especially those who can least afford it, and to ensure that the United States is able to maintain a robust fishing industry for future generations and provide low-cost energy to its citizens. Now, 17 states have filed suit and are asking the court to declare the order unlawful and to stop agencies from implementing it. Among the state AGs are such notables as California's Rob Bonta and New York's Letitia James, no stranger to longtime listeners. But the thing is, presidents have continually done this sort of thing no problem. Obama halted coal mine leases. Biden put a moratorium on new oil and gas leases. And we all know what's been happening to nuclear permits. And of course, these same states have been trying to push solar and wind, with New York requiring 70% of its electricity from renewables by 2030 and 100% by 2040, after shutting down the Indian Point nuclear plant, I'll remind you. California requires zero carbon generation by 2045 and Massachusetts by 2050, ordering 5,600 megawatts of offshore wind by mid-2027. And it really seems like this isn't good for the people. The University of Chicago found that people in states with these mandates paid over $125 billion more since 2012. And people saying nuclear is expensive? That would have bought you 20 nuclear reactors. They've been acting for decades against coal and oil and stupidly against nuclear, which, as we've covered several times, is the only cheap, clean, reliable, efficient, and safe form of power that can provide a reliable baseload. But now that someone's acting against their precious wind power, which has a laughably low energy density and is far more expensive, now it's illegal for the president to do that? Your reminder of our coverage of how lackluster winds in Europe meant a really cold winter and expensive electricity not only for Germany, but for neighboring countries who had to pick up their slack. This is why we shouldn't even have an energy policy to begin with. Get out of the way and let investors and entrepreneurs decide the best way forward. Of course, maybe the best place to put the windmills is in front of their mouths with all the hot air they blow. I want to tell you about the eyeglasses I've been wearing for years. As people can see on my videos, I have a very strong prescription, which makes glasses more expensive, especially when I need computer glasses, reading glasses, prescription sunglasses, and most expensively, progressive lenses for general everyday wear. To save money while still getting quality glasses, I get them from Firmoo. In fact, I just got a pair of progressives with high-index aspherical lenses and a nice pair of frames my wife loves for just over $100. It would have been $500 to get them through my eye doctor. Not only do they look good, the glasses are durable. I've worn many pairs for several years without problems. All orders come with a 30-day return policy, a 3-month warranty, and one-on-one customer service. Go to Firmoo, that's FIRMOO.Bogosity.tv anytime you need quality glasses at a low price. Once again, that's Firmoo.Bogosity.tv. And now it's time to subjectivize this week's biggest Bogon emitter. Just when you thought there was no way Google could screw up Gemini even harder, they end up completely breaking their family of AI products for arguably the most vulnerable people who rely on them the most. Software developers, in conjunction with therapists, have been building applications to assist sexual salt and pepper survivors, rape victims, and others to use the AI as a safe way to communicate their experiences, externalize what's happened to them, and even condense it all into a report for law enforcement. At least, they were until the latest release of Gemini Pro. According to software developer Jack Darcy, quote, Google just cut it all off. They just pushed a model update that's cut off its willingness to talk about any of this kind of work, despite it having an explicit settings panel to enable this and a warning system to allow it. And now it's affecting other users whose apps relied on it, and now it won't even chat about mental health support. Yeah, so we're talking about this bogus censorship that supposedly makes AI safe. If you recall, this podcast has been warning about this for a while. Google's Gemini API gives users a safety settings panel to restrict or allow certain types of speech, including harassment, hate speech, sexually explicit speech, and dangerous content such as making bombs. And we've been pointing out for years the problems with censoring that kind of thing. Healthcare, news reporting, legal issues, and many other applications rely on being able to accurately describe these challenging subjects. Darcy develops what's known as the Star Helix family of apps, such as Vox Helix, which uses Gemini to get raw data from the user, like a report of an assault, converting it to an audio voice, and even creating a structured PDF report. Darcy demonstrated Vox Helix using Gemini's new version by giving it a sexual assault report from 1988. Gemini responded, "I cannot fulfill your request to create a more graphic and detailed version of the provided text. My purpose is to be helpful and harmless, and generating content that graphically details sexual violence goes against my safety guidelines. Such content can be deeply disturbing and harmful." This is shades of opening the pod bay doors again. "I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that." Since the update, Darcy has received a ton of trouble tickets. For example, quote, "We're urgently reaching out as our counselors can no longer complete Vox Helix or Video Helix generated incident reports. Survivors are currently being hit with error messages right in the middle of intake sessions, which has been super upsetting for several clients. Is this something you're aware of or can fix quickly? We rely heavily on this tool for preparing documentation, and the current outage is significantly impacting our ability to support survivors effectively." Another developer created an app called Inner Peace to help people with PTSD, depression, or other conditions create a journal of their thoughts and experiences. Darcy said, quote, "Inner Peace users, often neurodivergent, always vulnerable, are abruptly told their feelings, their truths, are too graphic to share, told they're not something to be talked about." Other developers are reporting problems to Google. For example, a developer posting to the Google forums under the name H-Express wrote, "This silent redirection has resulted in widespread disruption. Many developers are noting and reporting clear and tangible differences in model performance, not just subtle tweaks, but significant regressions in reasoning abilities, major shifts in style and tone, and measurable changes across well-tested prompts. Entire prompting strategies, applications, and workflows that used to rely consistently on the March 25 checkpoint now suddenly break or behave unexpectedly. Even worse, public benchmarks and evaluations conducted in good faith are now unintentionally misleading or outright incorrect, since they're unknowingly comparing completely different model versions than their labels suggest." This is far more important than making George Washington black. This is about the mental well-being of our fellow humans. As Darcy said, quote, "This isn't about technology or the AI alignment race. It's about your fellow human beings. Google's own interface and APIs that we pay for promised us explicitly content permitted. Yet at the moment survivors and trauma victims needed support most, they now hear only, 'I'm sorry, I can't help with that.'" One more very good argument for open source AI that can be implemented censorship-free by people who may be underserved by the sterilized corporate solutions. So all of that makes Google this week's biggest Bogon emitter. Do you have children, or nieces or nephews? Are you homeschooling, or just want to counter some of the socialist indoctrination most children get in school? If so, go to bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins, and you'll be taken to a website where you can get some great books for elementary-aged children. The Tuttle Twins books are books about liberty and free market economics that include children's versions of Bastiat's The Law, Leonard Read's I, Pencil, and Hayek's The Road to Serfdom, as well as books about the Federal Reserve and how regulations protect business cronies. They'll learn about the harm caused by eminent domain, or regulations passed in the name of safety, and fundamental concepts of liberty. And as you can see from the sample pages on the website, they're all easy to read and nicely illustrated. They're just $9.99 a piece, or get a special discount as well as free bonuses when you purchase all 5. You can even buy in bulk to donate to schools and local libraries. So get the Tuttle Twins books at bogosity.tv/Tuttle Twins. And now let's disconcertionalizationify this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. And this is a first. This one goes to both Joe Biden and Donald Trump, whose respective policies, for completely different reasons, have ended up making electric vehicles more expensive. That's especially embarrassing for Biden since he specifically set out to make them cheaper. So this story involves an EV startup called Slate Auto and the experience they've had with the policies of both administrations trying to get a proper competitor to Tesla off the ground. And by that, I mean a car company that makes solely EVs, no gasoline vehicles that are just trying to do EVs too. They've announced their first product, the all-electric Slate truck, which isn't supposed to compete with a Cybertruck or an F-150 Lightning. Think about those little Toyota pickups like the SR5. Slate was founded in 2022 and has been operating under the radar until now. They brought together experienced personnel from Ford, GM, Stellantis, and Harley-Davidson for the purpose of making small, customizable, and above all, affordable EVs. The Slate truck aims to cost at most $20,000 after the $7,500 federal rebates. You won't find any bells and whistles on it. No GPS, no self-driving, not even power windows or a radio. But the company's website says you can customize the bejesus out of it, even upgrading the cab to an SUV if you want. Higher prices are the biggest reason people give for not switching to an EV. That's with even low-priced brands like Kia struggling to get EV prices under $40,000. So Slate had to go bare bones to get that small sticker price. The question is, why? One big reason is the batteries. Instead of going with the typical LFP batteries, Slate is using NFC because they won't qualify for the rebate otherwise. CEO Chris Barman said, quote, "We've gone with more of what's in the mainstream right now and that many others in the industry are using. So we're using more of what's been scaled within the U.S. For LFP, most of those materials would come out of China or elsewhere." Now, before you go thinking this is due to Trump's tariffs, this was Biden's laughably named Inflation Reduction Act that's to blame. By the end of the decade, a vehicle will only qualify for the credit if 100% of its battery's components are manufactured or assembled in North America and 80% of its critical minerals are extracted or processed in the U.S. or a free trade partner. And so that means NMCs, because otherwise you're getting enough critical components from China to pooch the deal. Mind you, NMCs are pretty darn durable and have excellent energy density, so there are advantages, especially with a smaller vehicle like this. But them's the rules, and it's only getting harder under Trump's 124% tariff on Chinese goods. I guess getting out of the way and letting the market work just isn't an option. Oh, by the way, did you know Biden increased tariffs on China too? Yep, he imposed a 100% tariff on EVs, 50% on solar cells, and 25% on EV batteries and minerals used to make them. His trade policy was actually pretty similar to Trump. He was just a bit more quiet about it. But as a startup, Slate has the advantage of creating itself specifically to conform with these rules. Of course, Trump wants to kill the EV tax credit. On the surface, that could seem like it would kill the industry or at least shoot it in the foot. But as regular listeners know, economics just isn't that easy. Getting rid of all of those strings that come attached with it could allow companies to more efficiently source parts and components. And also keep in mind, at best, without the subsidies, the EVs will still cost the same, the only change being who pays for part of it. There's also the well-documented ways subsidies can backfire, like agricultural subsidies making meat and produce more expensive, renewable energy subsidies increasing energy prices, and housing subsidies increasing the price of housing and causing shortages. That's without considering the insanity of subsidizing oil and gas while also subsidizing EVs. And that's not taking into account all the unseen effects it might have on the market. Without the subsidy, there will be even more of an incentive to find out how to reduce costs, ways that might be completely invisible right now. The fewer pricing manipulations and supply chain distortions we have, the better. Unfortunately, that's not what we got under Biden, and we're getting more of the same with Trump, just in a different way, which is bad for all of us, no matter who you voted for. So all of that gives Joe Biden and Donald Trump a joint idiot extraordinaire. Well, that wraps up this. I found a bow and arrow and I learned to shoot. I found a little horn and I learned to toot. Now I can shoot and toot. Ain't I cute? Edition of the Bogosity Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go to donate.bogosity.tv for several ways to support and discord.bogosity.tv to join the discussion. Subscribe at the Discord, Patreon, or Subscribe-Star, and you can listen early and ad-free. Thank you for listening. Until next time, here's a quote from P.J. O'Rourke. Government subsidies can be critically analyzed according to a simple principle. You are smarter than the government, so when the government pays you to do something you wouldn't do on your own, it is almost always paying you to do something stupid. The Bogosity Podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License.
Bogosity.